And now, it's Coast View with Ricky Mathews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome to Coast View, the show that celebrates coastal Mississippi and the people that make this such an amazing place to live, work, and play every single day. Hey, I've got a couple of things to share with you. One is from my brother-in-law, Dave Burge. He shared this with me. He said, I'm so old, I can remember when the only fake news was the National Enquirer. You know, I talk about this all the time. The fake news shared on Facebook and other social media platforms, boy, it's hard to sort through that. And as a former media guy, newspaper guy, digital media guy, boy, sorting through what is news you can trust versus news that is fake, it's just very difficult, even for a seasoned pro. Another friend, Dave Brandon, posted this, and I love it. And it really talks about, the negative energy and the positive energy that might be around you. But it said this: ships don't sink because of the water around them. Ships sink because of the water that gets inside them. Moral of the story, don't let what is happening around you get inside you and weigh you down, especially if it's negative. That is for sure. Hey, let me bring my partner in crime, Kyle Curley, into the conversation. And first of all, I'll just say, good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Well, we talked about it earlier this week, but of course we have Jeff Duncan coming on in the last segment, who covers the Saints for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. But you're headed to Jacksonville to play the music in Jacksonville. You excited about that?
I am bringing the whole Saints home field advantage with us to Jacksonville. I'll leave tomorrow morning, get in sometime tomorrow afternoon. We'll do a run through, and then Sunday game day, and we're going to bring it.
Well, I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you. And, the Saints have been really strategic about why they selected Jacksonville. I think it's smart to bring their guy, their music guy who knows how to get the team fired up with them. And like I always say, if the Saints win, it's because Kyle's music selection was spectacular. If they lose, it's because they had a bad game plan. It has nothing to do with the music. Hey, Kyle, before you get off, let me bring today's guest in. This is Major Kendal Dunn. He's a pilot with the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron at the Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunters at Keesler. He's a hurricane hunter. He flies airplanes into the eyes of these storms, and we're going to be talking about that here in just a second. But what I learned about you, Kendal, first of all, good morning to you. What I learned about you is that you're a big-time Saints fan.
Yes, sir. Season ticket holder for a long time. I got pictures, wearing those Saints pajamas from Sears and Roebuck's 100 years ago. And, born and raised, was there when they went to the Super Bowl for the NFC Championship. Lots of tears, hugging everybody. It was a good time. So hopefully good season, get it back on track.
So Kyle's music playing, don't you?
Absolutely. It's a gift to be able to play music at the right time.
It is. Kyle, okay, so he may try to play music, but there's no way you're going to fly an airplane into an eye of a storm, is there, Kyle?
No way. No. No. I don't care how much you tell me that plane is safe. I'm not doing it.
And sometimes we have playing while we're flying. So,
well, we'll move on and continue. Hey, Kyle, thank you for all you do for us, man. I appreciate you.
You bet.
You the man. Kendal, man, you're a brave soul. You're a dedicated person. We just experienced one of the more devastating hurricanes, certainly one of the most devastating in Louisiana's history, in Hurricane Ida, and we'll come back to that in just a second. But you're a brave guy and you're committed. I look forward to hearing more about you. But how are you doing these days, just in general?
Pretty good. The stress of hurricanes. I mean, here on the coast, we all went through Zeta. It just 8 short months ago. So it's painful. It's scary when the hurricanes are coming, and you hate it for all our friends and family in Louisiana. But, sometimes you're like, I'm glad we missed it. But then, here on the coast, we're running gas to our families and seeing them come over here. So it's just tough times, but stresses down a little bit. So,
yeah. So you're from Louisiana?
Born and raised New Orleans area, grew up on the West Bank, moved to the coast in high school.
Wow. So so I live on Back Bay. Where I live on Back Bay is in your flight pattern. So you fly over my house.
Gotcha.
And it's really interesting. I go back with Zeta, even in Hurricane Katrina, but hurricanes that hit here, we're here either on us or near us. it's really strange to see you guys. I know you're not flying out of Keesler because you relocate if we're going to take a direct hit, but it's so interesting to be in the middle of that storm and see you guys flying over my house during the storm.
Yeah.
What an amazing thing that is. But anyway, my next door neighbor is from the West Bank. His name is Pete Vicari. He does the Vicari auctions at the Coast Coliseum during Cruising the Coast. He owns a bunch of Dairy Queens and shopping centers, and he lives down, let's see, on the West Bank, outside the levee protection, I might add. And he got water. All his family members got water. And, you know, his businesses have been disruptive. It's been a very challenging time. How are you guys holding up over there?
Good at my house. I live over in Long Beach, but my folks are in Lacombe. They're in the West Bank, and Marrero. I got my nephew lives outside the levee protection in Lafitte. You know, he took some damage. It's just devastating down there. So a lot basically what we saw in Katrina. And we all know what that felt like if you were around 16 years ago. It's just, you get sick to your stomach even thinking about it, because it's just difficult.
Yeah. Well, when you saw the path of that storm, it came right up the bayou, and it was, you knew that places like Lafitte, I was the president publisher of the Times-Picayune NOLA.com. And so I spent a lot of time in Lafitte because I really wanted to understand the unique situation that existed there that was similar to a lot of other bayou communities. But, you know, the levee system there needing to be built higher, et cetera. The reality was Lafitte took a really tough hit, but so did so many other communities down in the bayou country. One of my best friends lives in Cutoff, Louisiana. And, of course, as you well know, that's just north of Houma. And boy, the challenges that they're going through, even today, man, like nearly 500,000 people in the New Orleans region and south are without power. And it's just a difficult situation. I bet when you flew into that storm and you saw the trajectory of it, it's got to be, it's eerily strange for you to know that the brunt of that storm is about to hit where your family is located. Tell me about that.
Yes, sir. And I grew up in that area, obviously, and I also worked for an offshore helicopter company. I flew helicopters down there for years. So plenty of friends in the Houma area, Thibodaux, Morgan City. And, you know, you just get sick to your stomach. And initially, 5 to 6 days before the storm hit, the models were showing it Lake Charles, you know, and poor Lake Charles got hit so many times last year. So you were sick for those people. And then the models move around, but they tighten up about 4 days out, 4.5, 5 days out. And you can be assured that what I've seen over the past 3 to 4 years, really paying attention to the models, they're pretty accurate where they're going to land within, 30 miles on each side. Don't quote me on that, but it appears to me to be that accurate. And then once we start flying in it, the accuracy goes out the roof. And watching the local weather, watching the Weather Channel, seeing the stuff we see, they were pretty locked on 4 days out. All those spaghetti models, you had the outliers, the rebels, but they were pretty much on track. So you were sick to your stomach knowing that, hey, it could jog 20 miles to the right and we could get a brunt of it, in Bay St. Louis or Long Beach and Gulfport. And then when it hits and you're flying those things, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I want to come back to what it was like to experience that, but let's just take a step back for a second. You're in the Air Force Reserves. How did you decide you wanted to become a pilot?
Born and raised in that New Orleans area on the West Bank, and if people watch this from Marrero, Gretna, you have the Naval Air Station down there. They had jets, and I went to air shows, Blue Angels. I always wanted to do those things. And school I went to, we take those aptitude tests every year, and they said, hey, look, you need to go, I don't know, eat drywall or watch paint dry. That's how smart you are. But, 90% of life success is showing up in attitude. And I just kept showing up, went up the road, made it to college. And then when I graduated, I started asking around, and lo and behold, I got to be an Army helicopter pilot. So that's, being a kid wanting to do it and thinking it's cool, but eventually I got to pull it off.
So you flew Blackhawks?
I did. I joined the Mississippi National Guard 100 years ago and got to fly Blackhawks, deployed with the local unit out of Jackson. was in the local AVCRAD, a depot level maintenance group, for years. And by the grace of God, ran into an Air Force guy that happened to be a Black Hawk pilot as well, and happened to be in this unit. And they were looking for guys, and he blazed the path. He was super good guy, super smart, great pilot. So I haven't achieved any of those things he has, but like I said, just keep showing up. But I was able to go to a course and become a pilot as well, an Air Force pilot that was already a pilot. But yeah, and it just happened to be hurricane hunters, and you grow up around here and seeing these C-130s, and I had no idea what we did until one day I was in a storm, and I was like, all right, this is
now you know. Let's do this when we come back. When we come back, we're going to talk about, I want to know more about the teams that are located there at Keesler, sort of what the whole Hurricane Hunter Squadron is all about the specific team that you fly with. A lot of brave souls, man. You know, why do you always fly at night? I know that's not always the case, but that's just strange that you fly at night. So anyway, we'll come back and we're going to explore all that with Major Kendal Dunn, a Hurricane Hunter pilot. When we come back, we'll see you after this break.
Coast View on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by J. Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk, Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk, Mississippi. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices. His love for the coast is why he's here. It's Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. I have Major Kendal Dunn. He's a pilot for the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron at Keesler. He's with the Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunters. He's flown into 25 storms and more than 70 eye wall penetrations, and we're going to get into a lot of that here in just a second. But you guys have groups, you have various teams. I think there are 5 members of your crew. Is that correct?
Yeah, at a minimum, yes, sir. 5 crews.
And how many different crews are there?
Yeah. So what people don't realize, just to give you some background knowledge. Basically, we have a handshake agreement with the National Hurricane Center. They're basically the customer, we're the provider, and they say, hey, this is what we need. So we have this agreement that we could fly 3 storms at any given time. So we're talking Hawaii, hitting Florida, hitting California, just to give you a suggestion, give you a scenario there. So basically we got to have all those crews. So we have 10 airplanes and we have to man all those planes. So we actually have 10 full-time crews here. So a minimum crew would be 2 pilots, a navigator, a weather officer, and a load master, SON drop operator, piece of equipment we drop out the back.
Wow, that's
and then
incredible.
And then we have reservists that'll come in and backfill. Basically, our full-time guys get us out the door, and then we start depending on reservists to start showing up. Tell their jobs, hey, I'm gonna go on a military leave status. I need to go fly these hurricanes. So, and most employers understand.
So what's interesting to me is that we're not only talking about down in the Caribbean. We're not talking about just in the Gulf of Mexico, but I think about, for example, Hurricane Larry, this long track storm out in the middle of the Atlantic that is just going to brush Bermuda, causing huge swells and undertow problems all over the East Coast. But you guys fly into Hurricane Larry.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you can basically think about our mission. We're basically trying to prevent loss of life. So as long as people pay attention in our immediate area, what the plane can reach, obviously Hawaii is one of ours. So, we'll jump to California and then go to Hawaii and start flying storms. But then you talk about Mexico and Nicaragua and Cuba and all the way back around to Bermuda. We want to get information for those folks as well. Obviously Bermuda's not going to be able to evacuate, but at least they know how strong it's going to be, how much they need to do and hunker down. But you're exactly right. We have 3 planes right now, crews flying out of St. Croix and then returning back to St. Croix, hitting Larry. But there's some very long flights to get into the eye and get that information.
Well, you talked about this, that the Hurricane Center has gotten so much better at tracking. They have. If you look at the changes that have been made to the models and to their approach, the Hurricane Center is in a unique spot because they take whether it's the GFS or European or any of the other models, they bring them all together and then they bring their expert experience to it. And what some people may not realize is that a lot of the data that's going into their analysis are going into each of the models that they're looking at. A lot of that data, once you start flying and other the National Weather Services start flying, that data feeds into this to make things more accurate. As it relates to Hurricane Ida, what's really unique about Hurricane Ida is that the models were in incredible alignment about this storm long before it even formed. And then as it was beginning to form, as it was just an invest, you already saw pretty stark language coming from the Hurricane Center because they knew once this thing started to get into the Gulf of Mexico, the conditions were extremely conducive to formation. So you guys also were on go early on, knowing that your mission was going to get teed up because the situation in the Gulf was about as fertile as you can possibly get. That's essentially what y'all saw, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we get tasked. I basically call it the tasking. Hurricane Center is like, hey, we want to go look at this development. We brief kids groups and all that kind of stuff all the time. Basically, satellites, they look great, but until you get into the hurricane, somebody like us with our weather officers in the back, experiencing it, a lot of eye stuff, looking out the window, seeing what we see on a sea surface. So you're looking at that development, and we're basically saying, hey, it's not ready yet. Let's not put this information into the model. They'll still put it in the model, but it's like not a starting point, basically. But you're exactly right. This thing was on the other side of Cuba. Heavy rainstorm, small depression at that time. And we already knew if it got across Cuba, I mean, it was going to develop. Like you said, it was fertile ground. It was ready to go, and it did.
So, Kendal, you know what's interesting, though, is technology has really enabled you guys to do a better job as hurricane hunters penetrating the storm. It's enabled the National Hurricane Center to do better. NOAA, everybody is aligned around the analytics around the data and how to really improve the models so that we can have a better understanding of where it's going. We're even getting slightly better on strength, even though they admit that strength is still something
It's tough.
that they have to do a little bit of just put experience to it to say the models say this is what we really think is going to happen. And in the case of Ida, the models performed pretty well. But what's interesting as a layman, I'm kind of a tropical weather nerd myself. And one of the interesting things is that we can actually track you guys. So I watch when you take off from Keesler or wherever you've relocated to. We can watch you. We can literally track you with the wind barbs on the airplane as you're flying. As you fly into it, we watch these wind barbs. We can see when you found the center. We can say, wait a minute, they found that this actually has a closed eye, which is the thing you guys are looking for. So we can begin to get designation. It will move it from just being a potential tropical storm to something that is now they know where the defined center is going to be. Then you can start to gather data around that, and so to speak. But are you aware that so many people like myself, track you in that way?
Yeah, every now and then. So what people don't realize, what we do specifically of anything else is find the center of the storm. If you imagine a hurricane is an overgrown tornado. So we literally, when I started doing this mission 8 years ago or so, I didn't realize that we get into the eye and then we literally cross that zero wind. And you'll see on our equipment, the wind barbs go to zero and then pick up as we start getting closer to the eye wall and, to get up to 100 miles an hour, whatever it is. But that's basically what we do. But yeah, every now and then we'll have to make a turn or something's happened and you're like, yep, somebody's going to see that on the Google, or, we'll make fun of each other. It's like, oh, what were you doing here? What did you do? We had a problem. My microwave deal got too hot or something.
Let's fast forward. The storm reaches major status, which I expected it to. And then, we've got a near Category 5 storm, and it's continuing to strengthen. I mean, a lot of thought was that it actually might reach it. It got just at the edge of it. And you're still flying in this thing. Tell me about that. Tell me about flying into a Category 4 storm right there on Louisiana's coast.
And I tell you, in this one specifically, we actually moved all the planes to San Antonio. So we flew our missions out of San Antonio. And basically, you got a plane coming out of the storm as another plane's going in. You're actually crossing your buddies, talking to each other on the radio. But knowing you're flying out to the storm and it's just a couple of 100 miles offshore. So, it's at night. So you actually, as you're down at 10,000 feet to fly through it, you could see the lights of the coast. I could see the lights at Venice, Marina, Morgan City. You could see the lights all the way back to Keesler and the coast, and you realize how close this thing is. If it, we put a lot of trust in these models. I mean, hardly anyone on the coast evacuated when this thing is just a couple 100 miles off because we trust the models. And, it makes you sick. I called my nephew from the plane and he was in Lafitte. And I'm like, listen, buddy, I'm listening to WWL because we can listen to AM radio. And I'm like, they're saying this thing is unsurvivable. You need to leave. So he did. He went on the other side to his dad's house of the sea walls, basically flood walls. But you're flying it and you're looking. And you're like, man, and the first time we went through, it was a Cat 2. And by the time we'd fly a big X pattern, by the time we came through, I saw 140 knots going through the eye wall. And that doesn't mean that's necessarily at the surface.
That's flight level, right?
Flight level, correct. But it was pretty close. Our instruments were reading, close to 130. So it's heartbreaking because you realize that people stayed. And some people couldn't get out because it happened so fast. Mm-hmm. I mean, you had to really be paying attention. I was basically Paul Revere in this storm 5 days out, just telling all my people, hey, start paying attention because, we're worn out with COVID and it's the end of the summer, holiday weekends coming up. And sometimes you just happen to need a guy like me that was paying attention. Like, hey, this one's going to be bad. You might want to go get gas, So
you can't separate the human from the pilot. I mean, the pilot's still human. You still got loved ones, and you still you're doing what you do to make a difference. You're doing what you're doing to get people warned so they know to get out. So we're getting close to the end of this segment, but I'm curious about the turbulence that you feel going into a Category 4 storm.
Yes, sir. No. So, we always tell people it's like a 200-mile-an-hour car wash. My first flight ever into a storm, we actually went through a mesocyclone, which is an airborne tornado. I'm looking over at the other pilot flying, and he's putting all these controls in, and the plane's not reacting. And I'm like, what's going on? But anyway, that was his first mesocyclone to go through as well. But, it depends. Tropical storms are worse. When you get that fully developed storm, that 130, 140 on the knots, the wind coming out of one direction, the plane just gets into it. And the plane doesn't know necessarily, but I'm going to tell you what, because you could feel the pressure, the force on the controls. You're trying to keep it steady. The amount of water that's airborne, you can't even fathom. My first flight daytime through an eye wall, I thought we were underwater. I was like, I didn't know we could be a submarine. And, and the engines need air to burn, right? And you're like, how much can this handle? But then you pop out in the middle of the storm and you're like, oh, thank you, Lord.
It's scary. It's so scary. Hey, listen, we're going to, you're a great spokesman, and I've really enjoyed our visit. I wish we would have taken a whole hour. We have Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com coming on the second segment, but we're going to have you back on in a couple of weeks. I'm sure there's going to be some more action. We see the models like later in September, maybe even into October, we're going to have some action. So we'll stay in touch with you, Major Kendal Dunn. It's been a pleasure to meet you.
Appreciate it, Ricky. Good meeting you.
It's been my pleasure. Have a great day.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast View on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, South Mississippi, the future has arrived. It's 2021, and at J. Allen Toyota, we're here to serve you. Want to let you know that we have Allen's lifetime warranty on every new Toyota we sell. That also comes with Toyota Care. That's 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. We have a great rental department. Our service department's ready to take care of your current vehicle. We're rolling out J. Allen certified pre-owned for 2021. You got to come to I-10 exit 38 right here in Gulfport. You're going to love what we have to offer. When you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fl.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors here, the show Saturdays at 1, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on SuperTalk Mississippi.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm. SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visit.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter. Has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard. And,
wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute.
Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show. Every day, we're driving the debate in America with the fastest moving, hardest hitting, most comprehensive, fact-based commentary on the radio. We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth. Our show is a meeting place of ideas. We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On Super Talk, Mississippi. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on Super Talk, Mississippi.
And now, it's Coast View with Ricky Mathews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota and AGJ Systems and Networks on Super Talk 103.1 FM.
Welcome back to Coast View. Look, I really enjoyed that conversation with Major Kendal Dunn, a pilot for the Hurricane Hunters, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to go fly with them. I probably will do that before the season's out. And Josh Morgan, who was on the show yesterday, he also plans to fly with him as well. Hey, without any further ado, let's get straight to my friend Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. There's a lot to talk about. At the beginning of the show, brought Kyle in. Kyle has gotten word that he's going to be going with the team to Jacksonville. An important moment because, why would you let somebody else play the music for the Saints when you got your guy? And so Jeff's going to be there, creating that home field advantage. But big opportunity for the Saints. And it's so interesting, I might add, Jeff, the selection process, how they chose Jacksonville is so interesting to me. And the city of Jacksonville hates you for it, don't they?
I don't think I'm going to be getting the key to the city anytime soon, unfortunately. But no, it's just a testament to the Saints' attention to detail, how they turn over every stone. And when this unfortunate situation kind of dictated itself and the Saints had to find kind of a neutral site home for game one, a lot of thought and consideration went in to the selection of Jacksonville. And ultimately what it came down to was just the Saints trying to establish as much of a home field advantage as they could because they were losing a key home game against a team that could have NFC playoff implications down the road. I know it's only game one. We got a full season to play, but you just have to pay attention to those things. And the Saints certainly did. And the whole point, Ricky, was just trying to get a game that as many Saints fans could get to as possible, considering these circumstances, and also try and establish a place that might be difficult for Packers fans to get to because they have an incredible following, one of the largest fan bases in the country. And so the Saints kind of landed on Jacksonville, and I think it's going to be a great environment there on Sunday afternoon in Jacksonville.
Well, you got the scoop on that story. You wrote the story with one of your brethren right there at NOLA.com while you were hung up in traffic on I-10, and you wrote that story. So congratulations to you. Hey, man, there's a lot to talk about. But before we go any further, I noticed that you're at your house, you've got Wi-Fi, and you've got power, but still hundreds of thousands of people in that region don't have power. Give me the latest from your perspective.
Yeah, well, let me just say first, as you know, I spent a week in Bay St. Louis. We evacuated there. I eventually made our way to Bay St. Louis. We started out along 30A and had a condo over there, and then ended up renting an Airbnb in Bay St. Louis. So the people of Bay St. Louis could not have been nicer. It felt like half the town were New Orleanians evacuated from Ida. A lot of friends I saw over there. It was amazing. It felt like a little mini New Orleans. But what a great place to spend your time. It's close to New Orleans. We could get in, check on the house, get back home. And we finally got power back late on Tuesday night, which was about a day later than we anticipated. But really, most of my neighbors all had it. It was just my little block that didn't have power. And I was surprised when I got in the house, Ricky, that Wi-Fi was working. That's a big issue in the city. And so I feel blessed to be able to come back. Very, very little storm damage here in my uptown area. A lot of down tree lines and things like that, tree limbs. But I think it's been pretty amazing. I know Energy is getting a lot of grief for the power restoration, but this was a massive, massive crisis and extensive damage. I think they said on the news last night, there's more power lines and poles down during this storm than there were the last 3 hurricanes combined, including Katrina. So that kind of gives a little bit of indication of just how massive this crisis is.
It's tough, man. And, you know, I think I've watched the city closely, and I think for the most part, I mean, you can always find criticism, but I think the mayor's taking kind of a no-nonsense approach. You know, the Entergy's done the best they can. I mean, you got what is interesting is they had these major transmission lines that fed an entire region coming in from one area. I bet that this will be an opportunity for them. And surely that's how they're getting the power back up, is backfeeding and doing all kinds of interesting stuff at substations to get power in from multiple locations at one time. And slowly but surely the power is coming back on. But it's a devastating situation. It's hard for, you think about traffic lights, you think about availability of gas. I mean, I met over here by my house on Pops Ferry Road, I met a guy from Homa that had to drive all the way here in order to find non-ethanol fuel. I mean, wow. The number of New Orleanians and people from southern Louisiana that have been in coastal Mississippi, you know, getting provisions it's been unbelievable. And you know what it's like to try to drive into New Orleans. Dude, that's hard. That's like it was around here after Hurricane Katrina. But slowly but surely life is coming back. And what's your overall assessment of things?
Well, I was amazed. Before I left, when I came back the other day, cleaned out my fridge, did a house check, I put out a garbage bin for waste removal, thinking that it wasn't going to get removed for weeks. And I got back and it had already been emptied. So we did have trash pickup. I know these little small steps probably sound, benign to people that aren't in the middle of this kind of disaster. When you're in the middle of it, I mean, something like that is huge towards step towards recovery. And I feel like, the grocery stores are open in my neighborhood. Gas stations are fine. There's no lines. So I think we're getting back there. We still don't have mail delivery. That's another step. I think it probably has more to do with the actual mail carriers getting back in their homes than anything else. But I know during Katrina, you were able to go in and pick up your mail. So I'm sure that probably is a service that I'm going to have to take advantage of until we get mail delivery back. So it's these incremental things that happen in a disaster like this. They kind of have a cascading effect on your everyday life.
Well, Jeff, we'll switch gears to the Saints. And what's interesting about it's sort of this concept is embedded in the decision to select Jacksonville. But what I want to get to is this team is a really smart team, They are data driven. They are experience driven. They learned a lot in that year of Katrina about what they don't want to do and what they want to do. They understand what disruption is. In the midst of the aftermath of Hurricane Ida, they were having to get to the 53-man squad. I mean, they had to move the whole team to Dallas. Their whole lives have been uprooted, but they haven't missed a lick given all the challenges that are on them. They've done a darn good job of managing the situation, haven't they?
There's no doubt. Well, they're experienced crisis managers. I mean, they've been through this situation so many times over the last couple of decades. And I'll be honest with you, Ricky, I think Sean Payton likes this kind of stuff. I mean, he obviously doesn't want a Category 5 hurricane up in the town he's in, but he responds well and embraces adversity. And that's certainly what the Saints have faced here by having to uproot their lives, take their families over to Dallas, kind of find a new practice site, having to play a big home opener on the road, basically against a top opponent. All these things he will use as motivational fuel for his team. The Saints are 4-point underdogs in this game, and I actually think that's a great situation for them to be in. I think they'll use that underdog role to their advantage, and I really like their chances in this game. I mean, Sean Payton is a master at this kind of situation of motivating his team, kind of an us against the world mentality. I think the Saints are going to be tough on Sunday.
Well, you said the big move you still expected to see was in defensive backs. Now, we've talked about it. You said that, you look at the core group that they have now, they've exceeded expectations. They've been playing well. When you combine that with the play of the rest of the defense, man, they got a chance to really, really do well, unless they have to call on the bench strength, which is not as strong as it was last year. But you said they're going to get more defensive backs. They've done a series of moves, including releasing Latavius Murray. So let's talk about those changes.
Well, it was all designed to bolster their defensive backfield. We know that cornerback was a top priority. You and I have talked about it a number of times on the program. I knew they were going to try and make a trade for a corner, and lo and behold, they finally pulled it off. Got Bradley Roby from the Houston Texans. We still don't know the compensation that's going back to Houston in that deal, but Bradley Roby is a veteran player. He's a starting man-to-man cover corner, exactly what the Saints system calls for. He's a guy that I thought back in 2014, I thought the Saints should have drafted him. I remember mocking him in my mock drafts to the Saints, and they ended up trading up that year at the bottom of the first round and taking Brandon Cooks instead of Bradley Roby when they desperately needed defensive help. And then, if Saints fans will remember this, unfortunately, in the second round, they drafted Stanley Jean-Baptiste, a cornerback out of Nebraska, and he was the ultimate bust. And that pick lived in infamy for a while among Saints fans. That was back in the days when the Saints really were losing their way with personnel decisions. 2014, they bring in Jeff Ireland. We see how things have changed in the draft, but Bradley Roby addresses a critical need. I think he's going to start. Now, he's got a one-game suspension to start the season, so he won't be available against against Green Bay. He'll be back in week 2.
So let's do this. We'll talk about the other move they made as far as defensive back is concerned. And then, as you've repeatedly written, Ireland's fingerprints are all over the place. Are we lucky to have that guy? When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on AllenToyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We're talking to Del Berra. Take me back to growing up and what it was like in the household with a dad like Yogi Berra.
You know, we grew up with his funny sayings. You know, I remember Dad managing the Mets, and me, Larry, and Timmy are watching the game on TV. And all of a sudden, two streakers run out of the stands on TV, and the camera flips away from them. So when he gets home, me, Larry, and Timmy say, "Hey, Dad, those streakers, what were they, boys or girls? We need to know." And Dad looked us right in the eye and said, "I couldn't tell. They had bags over their heads."
In a Mississippi Minute.
Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to the final segment of Coast View with my friend Jeff Duncan from the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. What a great friend he is to Coast View. Hey, listen, there's a lot to talk about. So let's finish the conversation about defensive backs, and then I have an observation about Jameis Winston. But first, what's the other move they made at defensive back?
Well, they had a number of veterans in for workouts over in Dallas, and they ended up signing Desmond Trufant, a veteran corner, a guy who was a former first-round draft pick. Saints fans will remember him. He was on the arch-rival Falcons for a number of years. Was a very good player, a Pro Bowl caliber player. Ended up playing, I think, after that in Seattle. And he was signed after that workout. And he's dropped off. There's no doubt about it. But he's still a veteran, savvy player. And let's get this straight, Ricky. They don't need a number one corner. That's going to be Marshawn Lattimore, who looks like he's not going to face any kind of discipline early in the year from the league. That's going to come at some point, but it's not going to happen at least anytime soon. So they've got their shutdown guy. They need just another corner opposite him. And right now they've got two good candidates in Trufant and Bradley Roby when he comes off suspension in week 2. And then, of course, Ken Crawley's had a really good camp, but certainly his track record doesn't lend a lot of confidence. But I like what they've done this week to bolster a position that Sean Payton just a few weeks ago said was a must for this team to address.
Well, you wrote the book on Peyton and Brees. We talk about that just about every time we're together. I mean, the definitive book on them. And you say you've got to have a PhD in offense to be successful. We've talked about it some, but we haven't really had the opportunity to talk about it on the air now about Jameis Winston being the man. But you know what? I bet, and I want your take on this. I bet I bet Coach Peyton is licking his chops. Because with the weapons that they have at their disposal and Jameis Winston's arm, if Jameis Winston plays well and doesn't make big mistakes, he's just opened up their playbook, hasn't he?
Yeah, they're going to go deep. We saw that in the preseason game against Jacksonville, where the arm strength of Jameis Winston led to 2 big plays down the field. And even if they don't connect on those, it's just the threat of it that opens up the defensive side of the field for the Saints. I think they're going to try and run the ball on Green Bay. The strength of this team is still that strong offensive line and Alvin Kamara. I think it's going to be difficult, quite frankly, for them to move the ball through the air against Green Bay. Jair Alexander, their lockdown corner, is one of the best in the league. I'm sure they're going to put him on Marquez Callaway. It's going to be a great matchup. And then I think someone else is going to have to step up for the Saints, and it's going to be interesting to see. I really believe this will be a low-scoring game with both teams kind of in the 20s. I'll be shocked if it's a shootout. But I do think the Saints are in good position in this game, and I think Jameis Winston, like you said, Ricky, he doesn't have to be a superstar. This team's good, very good on defense. They've got a good running game. They've got good special team. He just has to not make those critical errors. Don't take sacks. Don't hold the ball too long. Keep them in good down and distance scenarios, and they can win a lot of football games riding the rest of this team. He doesn't have to be the savior.
So we haven't talked about this either. What's the word on Taysom Hill? How did he take the news, and what's the latest on his Swiss Army knife roll?
Well, we haven't talked to him, so I'm sure, though, he was disappointed. He's got a lot of pride, and this was a great opportunity for him. But he's going to be back in that same role. I'm sure he's going to have a big role on Sunday as that kind of hybrid Swiss Army knife gadget player on offense. And I think he's going to be a big factor in their running game. We know how he can come in short yardage especially and run that kind of wildcat quarterback role. I just think the Saints are a little bit of a sleeping giant right now. I think a lot of people have discounted them because of the retirement of Breeze, because of the offseason attrition. But what I saw in camp, especially on defense, has really given me a lot of confidence this team can make a playoff run as long as the quarterback play is just adequate. And I think Jameis Winston has heard the message loud and clear. He just needs to be a game manager here, make the key plays, and this is going to be a great gauge game for them right off the bat. A 13-3 team from a year ago with the reigning NFL MVP. We're going to find out where the Saints are really quickly.
Okay, so back to Taysom Hill. One more question. One of the things that you noted was that his training in the offseason and then coming into camp was all about becoming the starter quarterback. So he slimmed down. A lot of his focus was on the mechanics of passing and all the stuff that he did to get ready to do that. The Swiss Army knife role is sort of different. So is he trying to bulk up in this very short period of time? And by the way, I was curious about this, that since he had slimmed down some, was he faster? Because he's already fast as heck. Is he faster? What's your read on that?
Well, Peyton was asked about that this week, and he said they're going to be mindful of him being at that lighter weight, which means he probably won't have quite the workload offensively that he did in the past. I'm not sure how much he can gain during a season. Usually you end up losing weight during a season. But I don't think it's a huge issue. I mean, he's down, I think he said down 10, 15 pounds. He's still bigger than most quarterbacks. He's still built like a linebacker. So I don't think it'll be that big of an issue. I think the bigger concern for me is going to be as he addressed some of those ball security issues that hurt him last year. It was a little bit of an outlier. He'd never had them before, but certainly that has to be something he avoids this year because this team's margin for error, Ricky, we've talked about it. It's not as big as it was in the past. They can't afford turnovers, and that's something we're going to watch with Winston, Hill. That's been an issue in the past.
Taysom has to not be a fumbler. He will be taken out of the game if he starts fumbling the ball. Okay. It's been great to catch up with you. I'm so happy that you have your power back on in New Orleans and that you're in the recovery mode. Safe travels to Jacksonville. Represent us well there. Look forward to hearing more from you, and we'll see you next week, my friend.
Thank you, Ricky. We'll talk next week, probably after a big Saints win.
Yeah, I hope so. Hope so. Who dat? We'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.